Hey, all right. Oh, okay. Okay, Florida. Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're looking at the Florida. This is one of my picks for the new trade-in event. Not a ton of ships available, but Florida at tier 7 is quite interesting as you get battle cruiser dispersion on 12 356mm guns. Also looks like a North Carolina hull of sorts. It's a pretty solid ship at tier 7. I've enjoyed this ship a ton in the past, and I haven't played it in a very, very long time. Has the meta overtaken this ship? Well, I don't think so. There's so many cruisers at these tiers that have essentially no armor. And with Florida's lighter AP here, it does have a few reduced characteristics, like our AP alpha damage is a little lower. It's generally going to overpen a little bit less than the battleships at these tiers that have 406s or 380s. I find the consistency to be quite good. Obviously, 12 guns, shell volume helps us out a lot, as does the battle cruiser dispersion. It's still only 1.7 Sigma, but for comparison, let's just say the Rhode Island at tier 10 has similar guns with similar dispersion. It can obviously slot the accuracy upgrade mod, so it's not the same dispersion. But that should give you an idea for the consistency on display here. If you're looking for a cruiser killer at these mid tiers as a battleship, this is a very, very good one. Trading for it is an excellent option here as you're able to trade for it with coal ships. That's what I would recommend. If you didn't see that video, highly recommend you use your coal ships to trade for these premium ships, effectively translating from coal over to doubloons. Nice dev strike there on the Yahagi. I'm not sure we would have got that with every other battleship at these tiers. Perhaps we would have, but the improved accuracy here, and more importantly, just not having overpens is kind of surprising. I expect that very often when playing battleships at these tiers, just to overpen the cruisers because they're very, very thinly armored. They're not very large ships either. We get trolled on our rear gun into the Scharnhorst, bow on, and then our front guns do almost 10,000 damage. It's still a battleship. It is still going to troll you. The armor here is not particularly good, and I'm making a pretty big mistake in this game. I have over-pushed, or at least I will be very soon. Playing this ship aggressively is not going to work out. It looks like an NC hull, which you would think is a massive bonus at these tiers. Your deck armor is really the only thing that translates over. We have an above-water citadel with this one, as well as only 26mm of armor everywhere else. That's a huge downside to deal with, as most battleships are going to be overmatching through that at tier 7. We see a lot of 380s, a lot of 406 already at these tiers. You don't have improved healing here either, so it's just a very standard heal consumable, and you get one less of them as well. Damage control is still the very nice American damage controls. But overall, the tankiness of the ship is relatively low, I would say. We want to play this one a little further back, mostly on flanking routes. You may think the AA is decent on this ship, but it's not. You do have a defensive fire, but it's really not going to help you out too much, just because there's an enemy carrier here that's a tier 6. And with our D-fire up, you'd think we'd be fending that off reasonably well. We're also somewhat clumped up, and this strike will still be able to get through. I think another potentially interesting comparison for Florida is the California, another tier 7 premium American battleship with 12 356mm guns. That one gets battleship dispersion though, so quite a bit worse dispersion, very similar reloads. So you're going to notice better consistency over the California. You're much faster as well, but your exposed citadel is a bit of a problem. Slightly worse conceal on Florida as well, but more importantly, our AP shells here on the Florida have 1,000 less alpha damage. Pen looks similar, the fuse thresholds, fuse times all look similar, but 1,000 less alpha damage is something to consider there. Maybe you're thinking I should be swapping to the HE against the Scharnhorst, and honestly, that probably would have been a better idea. I just hate swapping over to HE and then a cruiser broadside pops up, okay? Bit of a problem that I have is just stubbornly sticking to AP just in case, and then that just in case hardly ever happens. But the HE's actually been nerfed quite a lot as well. The alpha damage is close. We had 4,750 alpha damage versus the 5,000 on California, New Mexico, Rhode Island. all similar guns is what I'm comparing to right now. Our pen is the same, shell velocity is the same, but crucially, your fire chance has been cut by quite a lot. You have 22% fire chance only, and everything else gets around 31% fire chance. So HE spamming, it's okay on this one, but definitely more of an AP focused ship into broadsides. And yes, we managed to eat a massive salvo from that New Mexico. It's like 16 kilometers away. It is that vulnerable of a broadside. I made a mistake. I overpushed, I overcommitted, all right? That is completely my fault. But I had to include it just to show you how vulnerable it is. We don't think of New Mexico as having consistent salvos like that at those ranges, especially into battleship armor, I would say. Speaking of inconsistency, yeah, we get one Citadel there, but Omaha is well known for just exploding on contact. Battle cruiser dispersion still trolled us a little bit there. I'm surprised I lived so long, honestly, after eating that massive salvo. So maybe the armor is a little better than I have given it credit for. But we are going to go down here, unfortunately. Moving on to our next game, we're going to try and learn from that previous experience. You don't want to be the tanking middle battleship in this ship. I think that's going to result in a lot of games where everyone's just going to angle to you a lot of the time, and they're just going to get a ton of damage into you. Your armor just isn't good enough. Flanking, though. Flanking is where this ship is going to shine. It's still not incredibly fast, but compared to California, anything is fast. We're up to 27 knots with this one. California, 20.5 knots. New Mexico, 21 knots. Similar ships. I mean, Colorado is in that range as well. So having a little more speed on some of these other American battleships in these tiers is very, very nice. We pay for it a bit in the armor department, a little bit in the concealment department too, but oftentimes that's a trade I'm willing to make, especially to get consistent main guns. If one of your complaints with these mid-tier battleships is their inconsistency, I think you'll probably enjoy this one. It'll still troll from time to time. It's still a battleship. We can't expect it to have destroyer level dispersion or even cruiser level dispersion, anything like that. It's still going to be more consistent than a lot of those other battleships at your tier. We're in a full up tier in this one, facing tier 9s. The worst it can possibly get. There's carriers, of course, that could be coming focusing us. But for matchmakers' sake, just tiers, facing tier 9s. And we're still going to have an awesome game here. And I think it comes down to playing a little bit cowardly, okay? We can call it that. I'm playing around islands. I'm playing it a bit like a cruiser might, perhaps. I think that's going to work out much better than trying to face tank these enemy battleships that are just going to crush us through our armor. The deck armor does allow you to bounce some things when you're directly bow on, but as the ranges get a little closer, they'll easily hit your superstructure or the bow armor. Now here I'm actually not going to shoot this Ibuki. Perhaps a little greedy on the target selection, but it's important to focus on broadside targets with this ship. Angled ships, you can do all right damage to, but considering our overmatch is only 24 millimeters, that angled Ibuki would be auto-bouncing a lot of our shells. There's a broadside Buffalo, though, as an option. Trying to target select, pick your targets is really, really important for getting good games out of Florida. Positioning your ship and then taking advantage of those broadsides you're hopefully going to be seeing. It's hard to do in these up tiers, certainly, as you can get overwhelmed when you go to a solo flank like this. That's why I've played rather passive at the start, not over pushing into the enemy spawn, because all that clump of ships south of B on the enemy team could have easily just turned and focused me. We gotta be careful, but finding these broadsides is crucial. And then you can get salvos like that. Poor Buffalo, right? I mean, he sat broadside a little bit longer than he needed to, I suppose. But still, very nice to have that consistency here out of a tier 7 battleship. I don't associate mid-tier battleships with consistency. At your tier, there's a few other battleships with battle cruiser dispersion. We can look at Prince Heinrich, Renown 44, Rook, things like this. They don't have the shell volume, though. At most, they're going to have 8 guns, 9 guns at most. Getting up to 12 guns with the same dispersion is really, really nice. And I think that contributes to a lot more of this consistency that I'm feeling. You'll know I'm a pretty big hater of 6-gun battleships, perhaps. If you're new around here, hello, welcome. You'll figure it out very quick. And those often will have battle cruiser dispersion, and I still don't like them. It's not just battle cruiser dispersion that leads to a consistent ship. It needs to be the shell volume combined with the better dispersion. Angle Colorado probably should be swapping to the high explosive here. It's really just on me, man. I really dislike in general shooting HE from my battleship. I want those EP salvos, but I probably should be swapping here. We've had an excellent game so far here, almost 90k, up tiered into tier 9. Playing rather passively, flanking, hiding behind islands, a little cowardly, okay? I'll admit it, a little cowardly. And we're about to push out and possibly make a massive mistake. This is risky, okay? There's a lot of battleships here that are going to overmatch through most of my armor. If I go to broadside to shoot all of my guns, it's 33 degrees forward, 30 degrees backwards. They can still get through into our citadel because it is just that lightly armored. Even an experimental secondary ship here that is going to full pen us pretty much everywhere with his secondaries. It's scary. I probably should have stayed in the C cap here, and I'm just going to get lucky, okay? That's what it comes down to. I'm just going to get lucky that Otaka did not get me. And then we go dark. Fortunately, we do go dark. Our concealment here allowing us to just sneak past, get our angle versus this Taihang. And we can open up on this guy if he's not looking at us here, okay? That's going to be what I'm waiting for. As soon as his guns start to turn towards my teammate, that's when I decide to open up. Our turret traverse is just enough to keep up with this here. And now we're angled. Angled like this, we are going to take reduced damage. We have so much HP that I'm calculating that's going to be okay. 20,000 damage, though, into the broadside Taihang there is quite nice, showing the consistency doesn't just require you to have citadel damage. Even full pens, if you get enough of them, is going to net you a lot of damage into even higher tier battleships. We shouldn't be sitting within secondary range here. That's why we're trying to get around the island. We're going to greed for a little bit more damage on this guy. And then I'm going to use my damage control. Maybe a bit early than you would think. But it really comes down to having a long immunity time. It's one of the lovely things about having these American battleship damage controls. They let you damage control really early and extend that immunity time. And you can use that to get behind islands, go undetected, things like that. Broadside Colorado now. Did some good damage into the broadside Taihang. And then we get 5 torp protection hits. It's still smaller caliber. It's still lower alpha damage shells. And that's why against battleships, you have to aim a little bit higher. I should have aimed a little bit higher into his upper belt, into his superstructure. We tried again. A little bit inconsistent, okay? I've sung the praises of the consistency, but I have to show you that it's not perfect salvos every time. You shouldn't be expecting that out of a battleship anyway. But if you were, this is not going to deliver quite that level. It's still an awesome match to have. Being able to find all these cruiser broadsides. There's a lot of cruisers played at these tiers that have very vulnerable citadels, and Florida can definitely take a massive advantage of that. So if that's what you're looking for, I think this is a solid premium to pick up, especially if you have coal ships that allow you to exchange coal, like 228,000 coal for Marco Polo, Iwami, Kearsarge, Pommern, and that'll direct translate over to getting you the Florida. Translate that coal for doubloons. It's not a bad deal. And then if you have the extra coal, you can just go buy that ship back that you used later. We do get the E in this one, unfortunately, having the Confed buff proc at the very end of both of these battles. And if you're interested in my picks for the trade-in event, definitely check out the video I made earlier this week on that entire event. Gave you my top 5, as well as talked about all the ships available. I generally thought Florida would be a good pick. I just hadn't played it in a very long time. I'm glad I've played it again, though, as it probably would bump up a couple of spots, honestly. This is a very, very solid battleship at its tier. It's got some vulnerabilities, though, okay? This Citadel is a big problem. 285 millimeters is not a lot. Below water, even if there's some plunging fire, it's 213. We're getting to heavy cruiser armor levels here. That's a big issue, okay? Very large, very exposed Citadel here, and our armor here is not amazing. It's actually 26 here and then 25 bow. Functionally not too different, honestly. I don't know of any ships that Overmatch 25, but not 26. Feels like it jumps from 24 up to 26 millimeters of overmatch when you go from 356 up to 380s. The deck armor, though, it's 37 millimeters, is quite nice. When you play it angled at longer ranges, certainly you can bounce some shells. The superstructure's relatively thin, and this should shatter and bounce some AP and HE. But it's still not particularly powerful in the armor and tanking department. This is a ship that you want to be playing for its main guns and flanking, finding opportunities to smash cruisers or even broadside battleships. Just don't expect huge amounts of pen and citadels into battleships at those longer ranges. Here's the build that I was running on the Florida here, taking the 2-pointer here for AA and ASW Expert purely for the consumable cooldown. I love this skill these days, trying to fit that in wherever I can. Your turret traverse is quite slow, even with grease of gears. It is quite slow here, so consider that you need to be pre-planning where your turrets go, as we often don't want to be turning our hull to turn our turrets quicker, as that will be exposing our broadside. I'll do that in some other ships, but Florida is just that vulnerable that we have to be planning ahead. And yes, I had gun feeder and I never swapped to the HE. I don't know. I'm not very smart sometimes, okay? What can I say? I have good intentions, okay? And then I just get into matches and then I'm just stubborn. I don't want to swap to the HE, bro. Anyways, onwards to our upgrades. Not a lot to take here. Probably do take turret traverse, honestly. The extra range is nice, but we have a spotter to help us out there. I'm mainly taking this for the data mined minor improvement to dispersion that it takes. If you don't know that, the more range you have, the slightly better your dispersion gets, just with how the calculation goes. We had no idea until someone data mined it, okay? So it's just so minor that no one noticed until someone dug into the code, I guess. That's how small it is. So you'll notice the turret traverse much more, I would say. And then I'm trying to keep my AA alive because dealing with carriers, not a huge fan. Personally, just not a huge fan of that. 12.1 kilometer detect is still very, very nice. And having the extra speed here, speed flag getting us up to 28.4 knots, is so nice. If you've played the mid-tier American battleships, it's painful until you get to NC with the speed department. And Florida bringing that down a little bit lower is really, really nice. It's a solid ship. Definitely worth trading some coal ships in for. If you got to spend a bunch of doubloons for it, it's up to you then. But being able to direct trade your coal over to doubloons is really, really cool. And one of the main reasons that I really like this trade-in event. But let me know what you think about the Florida and this trade-in event in the comments down below. Thank you very much for watching and have a great rest of your day.